Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of Loyal Media, our brand new sports podcast with me, my co-host Ali. How's it going, Ali?
I'm good. How are you, man?
Good, good. So, just a little backstory of who I am. My name is Richie Malora, and I have a Twitter account and Instagram account on the New York Jets at NYJets_media, and I also have a YouTube channel on this channel, NY Jets Media, and I post all New York Jets content. And on this channel, there's going to be a dedicated playlist called Loyal Media, where me and Ali will bring you guys weekly videos of breaking down all New York Jets. We're going to branch off to New York sports and even beyond New York sports eventually in the future. So me and Ali are really excited to kick things off. And yeah, Ali, you want to give a little backstory of who you are?
What's up, guys? My name is Ali Ashraf. I'm the owner of Loyal NYJF Fans on Instagram and Twitter. I started my Instagram page 6 years ago when I was a freshman in high school, and it blew up. And now, this is my goal of being a broadcaster and all that stuff. So this is our best time to do it. We're in a pandemic right now, so me and Richie were like, might as well give this a shot. And here we are, and we have a lot of content for you guys to come up. And let's get started with Jamal Adams.
Yeah, let's get right into it. So obviously we know what is going on with us Jets fans. It's just a nightmare with the whole Jamal Adams drama.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, I remember the trade deadline when that came around, and that was the first little taste of what was going to come. Right after that trade deadline, even though Jamal wasn't moved, I had a feeling that this offseason, something like this was going to happen. Did not expect it to get this ugly, but it really is just a crazy situation that I was not expecting at the same time. So, Ali, what are your thoughts on the whole Jamal Adams situation, and where do you really think it's going to go?
I mean, it picked up mad quickly this past week of him being on social media, because in the beginning of the offseason, he wasn't very vocal in social media. So maybe everyone was like, maybe he settled down a little bit, but nope. This entire week, he's been bashing the team. He's been commenting on Gangrene Empires. He posted saying that love and all that stuff, that I'm out pretty much. Marcus May tweet. It's kind of concerning, because if you look at the literally realistically, he's on contract for 2 years, has pretty much no leverage. We all know he's a dynamic player. He's a playmaker, all that stuff. But is it necessary to go this? I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, because it's so insane. Because, first of all, he wants $17-20 million out of the spot. That's what he pretty much wants, because CJ Mosley makes around 16 million, and he wants to be the highest paid on the Jets, which is about 17 million. So that being said, that's a lot for a safety. And I understand that, he's one of the best safeties in the league, but the Jets can't pretty much say that we're going to pay you that much when they still got 2 years on your contract, and they really don't have to do anything. And they're trying to build a team. Joe Douglas is trying to fill this team his own way. And that's why he had 1-year deals all of free agency. We'll talk about that later, but, it doesn't make sense at all. And, I don't agree with Jamal Adams at all right now. He better have a good backstory behind it. But I feel like you supported Jamal Adams a lot, but, you're trying to get a little bit pissed off a little bit too, right?
Yeah, so my whole point of view on this whole Jamal Adams situation is I'm a diehard Jamal fan, as most Jets fans are, before this whole situation. And I was a big fan of trying to sign him. Right after the draft, Joe Douglas said that he's going to get a contract extension done with Jamal Adams. And I was excited. I wanted Jamal Adams to become a Jet for life this offseason. And then what happened when the draft came along? We were in the middle of a global pandemic. So that really hindered everything, virtual draft. Everything was just flipped upside down. So Joe Douglas had a lot to work with in his first offseason. And now Joe Douglas's philosophy is the NFL is set to lose millions of dollars, which will result in the NFL to lose money next year, which will also result in the cap space to lower for each team. So Joe Douglas does not want to invest a bunch of money into Jamal Adams right now, especially with 2 years of control on him, and with us paying guys like Le'Veon Bell and CJ Mosley top tier money. So Joe Douglas wants Jamal Adams a Jet for life. He told him that he's in his long-term plan. And I think that Joe Douglas told Jamal Adams' camp, where this world is right now, we might not pay you this offseason because of what's going on. We want to pay you next offseason, and you're in our plans. Obviously, that did not sit with Jamal Adams right. he heard Joe Douglas say something differently months ago, and he doesn't want to hear the pandemic excuse because guys like Christian McCaffrey got paid. Christian McCaffrey is the only player from that draft class that got paid so far. And I do think Jamal Adams is worth every penny that he's going to get paid eventually. But the way he's handling the situation just doesn't sit with me well. Just exposing Jets fans. It's kind of like he just doesn't care about his diehard fans that, like me, who just always hyped him up, always said he was the best safety in the league, have a great person he is, a leader. All these stuff that I just hyped him up for 3 years just kind of like hit me in the face like, wow, like what was I doing for these 3 years if it was going to end up like this with Jamal Adams on social media, just going off on Jets fans and comments. And you saw that video and the guy's like, hey, yo, you coming to Dallas? He's like, I'm trying, bro. Like, are you kidding me, yo? Like, that's not what I want to see at all. And then news comes out. Who knows if it's true because it is Manish, but that Adam Gase is a reason why he wants to out, not just the money. And I kind of knew that was something before Manish, had to post it and get credit and twist the story so he has his name everywhere. But Adam Gase, I don't understand why he got hired in the first place. That's a whole nother discussion. I'm not going to talk about that right now. But this whole Jamal Adams situation, I don't think it's going to end well, especially if Jamal Adams just simply does not want to be a Jet. And Joe Douglas has all the control. He does not have to trade him right now. He could hold on to him, and Jamal Adams will be forced to play in 2020 if there's a season. So Joe Douglas and the Jets have all the leverage here. So I'm not concerned, and the new CBA that got passed protects the Jets from this exact situation. So the Jets have all the control over Jamal Adams. So it's just time will tell, and we won't know until we'll see. I mean, is Joe Douglas going to trade him now, or what do you think?
So I'm gonna go back a little bit about Adam Gase. Alex Lewis, he put it on an Instagram story, pretty much saying that this is complete garbage. That like this is now how we feel about Adam Gase, and then he sent out memos to like Athletic and all these guys, and pretty much saying that we're with Adam Gase, and the locker room is not, it's not like what the reporters are saying. That he's pretty much said that I know you have a job, we all have jobs to do. But that's not the case. And he's, they're all ready to work and they're ready to go with Adam Gase. And then I think CJ Mosley also said that. Someone commented on his Instagram post and he said, absolutely not. This is not true. And this is not how So a lot of people are saying that why would they even say that? They're supposed to say that, but they don't even have to say anything. A lot of guys are not even saying anything. So guys like that finally speaking out for Gase gives you a little bit more, as a Jets fan, seeing a little bit more comfortable with Adam Gase, especially when people are not very comfortable with him, all the stuff that we've gone through. But saying back to Jamal Adams, Greg Williams also praised him, in the press conference earlier this week. He also said that, he's an all-star player, he wants him back and he wants to work with him again, and he hopes to work with him again. Hopefully that gives more sense to Jamal. Money talks, money talks. Well, as soon as Joe Douglas puts money out the door, they could be best friends forever. It could change overnight. Maybe he just being homesick right now. He's at home right now and he wants to be like, oh, I want to stay home now. But when money comes around, his parents are going to be probably like, oh, you should probably take the money and stay in New York, So
Yeah, exactly.
That's probably the best thing about that situation. The Jets should just wait it out and see how everything goes. Joe Douglas has all the leverage right now. And, just stay put and see what happens.
Exactly. I mean, Jamal Adams, like you just said, he has no leverage, and Joe Douglas is in the driver's seat right now. And it's just going to be crazy to see how it all plays out, because if the Jets don't trade him and the season's on, is Jamal Adams going to be suiting up and playing? I mean, he's going to have to. And how is that locker room going to look? All these players saw what Jamal Adams is doing on social media, just basically tweeting in the past tense. Like Marcus May tweeted something, Jamal Adams quote tweets it saying like, it was nice playing with you, bro. Like you're the one player I'm going to miss playing with the most. Like he's not a Jet anymore. Like that's just insane. Like I like hearing Greg Williams have support of Jamal Adams, because maybe Jamal Adams will eventually like switch his mindset and be like, all right, maybe I can give the Jets one more shot. Don't think that's going to happen. But the one thing that really bugs me as well, I'm not sure if these reports are true, but apparently Jamal Adams is willing to get traded to a team like Seattle or a competitive team and not get paid. So is it the money, or is it just he does not want to be a New York Jet? That's the biggest question. And Joe Douglas is trying to build a culture here with guys that love to be a New York Jet, that hate to lose, and just want to build a brand new culture, because Joe Douglas is trying to build this thing for this decade. We want to be consistently competing year in, year out. And if Jamal Adams just doesn't fit that mold in terms of leadership qualities and just doesn't want to be here, we got to get rid of him. His value is really high. We can get draft capital. We can get young players. And it's going to come down to, I think we're going to have to move him simply because Jamal just doesn't want to be a Jet. I don't want somebody on my team who doesn't want to be here. And that's coming from like a diehard Jamal fan who like has all his jerseys and love him, before all this, it's just crazy.
I agree with you completely. Like, I feel like he should go up to Douglas and be a man and be like, I don't want to be here anymore, and be clear with the message rather than have like these little things, social media stuff, and saying it on fans through videos. That's just disgusting. Just you're on contract for 2 years. You need to tell them personally that you don't want to be here, and then they'll probably look for it, because you've done a lot for the team. We all know that, but like, you need to be more clear with the message, because this is not right, especially for the fans, especially for everyone. He's pretty much ignoring them right now. So that's other thing. And also, the one thing is that if he does stay on contract, and if he doesn't want to play here, they pretty much said training camp's going to start on time. So July 28th is when we're going to start. And if he missed 5 days of camp, there's no penalty. But after that, he gets $40,000 in fine every day he misses. So that's saying a lot. You're going to lose a lot more money than like actually gain it. So like, that's something to think about as Jamal Adams and his agent handle this problem. And, Joe Douglas has a lot to handle right now. And this is probably his first big test. I would say Caliche was a little bit, Assembly a little bit, but I think this is probably the biggest task for Joe Douglas.
Yeah, this is definitely a huge task for Joe Douglas, but I tweeted this exact thing and somebody commented on my tweet saying that this is not Joe Douglas's first test, and he was right. I forgot, Joe Douglas's first offseason, he had to deal with a pandemic, couldn't go to the pro days, had a virtual draft. Like, that was his first big test. This is just another big test. You know what I mean? Like, we got to give Joe Douglas the credit he deserves. We're going to get in depth of the Joe Douglas offseason after we finish up Jamal Adams. But Joe Douglas has all my trust in how he's going to handle the situation. I think how he handles the situation is really going to set up this Jets team in the future. It's either he trades him, and whatever we get back, he can utilize, because Joe Douglas is a value type of GM. He wants his draft picks. He really understands how to get draft capital. And we saw that in the draft when he traded back and acquired more assets. When is the last time we saw a Jets GM do that? It's usually the opposite. We trade up and give away our whole future for one player. Joe Douglas is building a foundation in the future. So when this whole Jamal Adams thing gets wrapped up, whether he's a Jet, which is very unlikely, or he gets traded, I think it's going to be a positive for this Jets team. I know right now, Jets fans, it's a nightmare. We're all in darkness every day. We wake up and just waiting to see another disgusting tweet from Jamal where everybody's upset and uptight. And then we have so many Jets fans on Twitter just going after Jamal, which is not helping the situation. I think not right now. I mean, I know a lot of Jets fans want to go after him now for what he's done, but I think leading up to this, so many Jets fans and just fans in general just go after these players and forget, like, they're human beings. Like, stop just going in their mentions and just like ripping them apart. Like, why would a player want to play for a team when he just sees his fans ripping them apart? You know what I mean? Like, that's just, I hate when I see people in his comments and Twitter just ripping players apart, because they're human beings. They don't want to hear that. You know what I mean? So I think that's another reason why Jamal just got sick of it. And Jets fans can be toxic. We are. I mean, it's because we're passionate. We love the Jets so much. We've been through misery, especially in my lifetime, in our lifetime. We're young Jets fans. So the last time we saw winning football was 2009, 2010. So we're pissed off. So at the same time, I don't blame Jets fans for being uptight, but just try to keep your opinions to yourself and not go after the players, because I know one of my friends, real quick, a funny story, commented on Tremaine Johnson's post like last year, and Tremaine Johnson blocked him right away. So it was just funny, but yeah, so hopefully this Jamal Adams situation gets wrapped up and it will be propelling our Jets team into the future. So that does it for the Jamal Adams talk. Let's get right into Joe Douglas's first offseason as a New York Jet general manager. So we're going to start off with the draft. So how do you think he handled the draft, Ali?
I feel like he had a completely solid draft. if I have to grade it, I would have to give it at least an A or a B, because like how he handled it, it was very good. There's a lot of questionable picks. The one questionable pick was James Morgan. I was kind of confused on why we drafted him, a quarterback with Sam Darnold, like all the eyes on Sam Darnold right now. But Denzel Mims excites me, man. And Denzel Mims is incredible. He's like an AJ Green. I watched film on him. I did a lot of research on Denzel Mims. He's quiet. He's a very quiet dude. He does what he wants, and he has a lot of chip on his shoulder. Even when when he got the phone call, he was pissed off. He was pissed off that everyone skipped him, and he's ready to work. And you see some highlight videos of him training and stuff, and he looks elite. He looks really, really good. And the Jets might have another AJ Green. Who knows? Like we need a guy like Brandon Marshall. When we have Brandon Marshall, we need that tall receiver for Darnold. Someone to develop, especially with the core the Jets have right now. It's very questionable with Brashard Perriman. All these other guys we don't know. Or if Chris Herndon can stay healthy. So with Darnold needs the most weapons. And Mims is probably the best draft pick thing that we had in a long, long time that I'm very excited about. And then Bryce Hall being the steal of the draft. But again, Douglas handled it very well. And did you like the Mekhi Becton pick?
Yeah, so all the mock drafts that I did, I picked one of the 4 tackles that was available, whether it was Jedrick Wills, Andrew Thomas, Tristan Wirfs, or Mekhi Becton. So I'm happy we came out with one of the 4 in Mekhi Becton. I think Mekhi Becton has a chance to develop into a dominant offensive lineman. Mm-hmm. He has that boomer bust factor to him, where the bust really just comes down to we haven't really seen somebody that size play that position. Trent Brown on the Raiders is someone we can look at, but Mekhi Becton, 6'7", 364 pounds, running a 5'1" at the 40 is unheard of. So he has a chance to be completely dominant just because of his size. So if he can maintain his weight and stay in the field, I think Mekhi Becton has a chance to really solidify that left tackle position for the future. And in my mock draft, I always picked tackle first round, wide receiver second round. So it was refreshing to see Joe Douglas have the same mindset as me. That's what I wanted. And I'll never forget this moment of the draft. All Jets fans can probably agree with me here. We're on the board in the second round. We're on the clock. We all want Denzel Mims. Everyone on Twitter, Denzel's available. What do we see? The Jets trade the pick. I'm not going to lie. I was pissed off. I'm like, are you kidding me? We had Denzel Mims to take right there. Why would you trade the pick? I'm like, all right, I got to calm down. I see we traded back like 11 spots. I'm like, all right, there's no way Mims is there. So who we getting? And then, we get closer and closer. All of a sudden, Mims is there. And Joe Douglas got an extra third-round pick somehow. And then with that extra third-round pick, he flipped again for 2 fourths and a 6th next year. So that is an example of Joe Douglas's draft. When's the last time we saw a Jets general manager have that much discipline to just trade back? So many GMs would be at that spot in second round and immediately jump on Mims. But somehow he knew that Mims or another player that he loved would fall to his spot. And I really love the draft picks in the third round as well. Ashton Davis is looking like a really smart pick now with the whole Jamal Adams situation. I'm not going to lie, though. When we first drafted Ashton Davis, I was like, whoa, why? Because that's probably our last position of need. But after I digested
things change.
After I digested the pick and realized like you need 3 safeties in this league to rotate in, and a guy like Greg Williams can utilize him so well. He's a Swiss Army knife player. And now with Jamal Adams potentially gone, he's going to be his replacement. So I really like that pick as well. And I know you mentioned the James Morgan pick was a head scratcher for sure. When I saw they drafted James Morgan, I was definitely like, why? And then I digested it again. I'm like, okay, let's get more knowledge of this guy and what Joe Douglas's mindset is. So that draft pick that he used was one of the 4th-round picks he got from trading back. That makes sense. So basically, it wasn't the Jets draft pick. It was a draft pick that Joe Douglas acquired from the draft. So I think Joe Douglas's mindset was in the second round, he wanted to trade back and get an extra pick that he can use on a backup quarterback, because backup quarterbacks are valuable in this league, especially for the Jets. The Jets are 0-6 without Sam Darnold, and their offense looks terrible. So obviously, Joe Douglas is looking for the future to have a backup in the long term that will be on a really cheap deal. And a guy like James Morgan, he's a like a nerd. He's a quarterback nerd. He's really, really smart and just loves the game of football. So I feel like him and Adam Gase's system can learn behind a guy like Joe Flacco and Sam Darnold. He's going to be the future backup quarterback. Is it a flashy pick? I hope James Morgan never sees the field. Don't get me wrong. I hope Sam Darnold plays fully every single year for the next decade. But I see where Joe Douglas was going with that pick. And another pick that I kind of really love, who might get a lot of Jets fans excited, is Braden Mann. That was another crazy pick.
Mm-hmm.
Why did we get a punter? We have all these different needs, and we get a punter. I mean, look at Joe Douglas. Lachlan Edwards is leaving. We're not going to give him money. We'll get the best punter in the draft, and Mel Kiper Jr. hyped him up saying a potential Pro Bowl punter. I'm like,
He
oh,
could be a Pro Bowler, man.
yeah, exactly.
Look at his highlights.
Yeah, go look up Braden Mann's highlights, and he looks like a beast. He has that leg, and it really is important position. A lot of people overlook punters, especially if we're in a defensive game. You need to be able to pin them deep, and this Jets defense is the strong suit of this team. So if we're in a defensive game and Braden Mann can pin them at the 5-yard line, and then we can get like a stop or a pick six or something, it's huge. So I really like that pick from Joe Douglas. And just to quickly summarize his draft after right before we get into free agency, Joe Douglas's draft reminds me of a GM that's planning for the future instead of this year. He's drafting guys that he wants to be on this team for the next decade. You know what I mean? Like a guy like Ashton Davis, Braden Mann, James Morgan. Those are guys that are not going to be immediate impacts, but in the future, they're going to be core pieces. Cameron Clark is another guy I really love that I think is going to develop and potentially be our left guard of the future next to Mekhi Becton. And Bryce Hall, like you said, is probably going to be the steal of the draft. So I really love Joe Douglas's draft. I'm going to give it a B+, A- at my opinion. He just did an excellent job of acquiring draft capital throughout it by trading back. So, yeah.
So go back to the James Morgan stuff. You know, I was kind of questionable the entire time, but when we signed Joe Flacco, it made more sense. I was a little bit more calm with the pick because, you know, I wasn't very satisfied James Morgan being the number 2, you know, heading to the season.
Yeah, not
so then when Joe Flacco came in and got signed, then I was like, okay, this is a little bit more because then he can learn in front of Joe Flacco. You know, Joe Flacco, he can learn. Even Sam Darnold, he can learn from. So, you know, Sam Darnold has experience, so he'll get that. Joe Flacco has a lot of experience, so that's good for James Morgan and, you know, develop him as a quarterback that can maybe be a backup. And hopefully Sam Darnold can be our starter and you don't need to use James Morgan ever. But, you know, it's a good, reliable option for the Jets, I guess. And we're just going to have to see how it works out for the Jets. And, again, like you said, that how Douglas did this draft, he pretty much moved around throughout the draft. You know, he was managing it correctly. You know, he's making moves here and there. And that's what the Jets haven't done on a long, long time. And then that carried before in free agency, how he handled the free agency part of it and how the 1-year deals kicked in. You know, he's staying put on deals and not overpaying like Robbie Anderson. He didn't overpay Robbie. He didn't overpay anyone. You know, even Jordan Jenkins wanted to get more. He stayed put on the deal and he came back to us. So, you know, he played it very well. And, you know, his strong suit in revamping the offensive line in the offseason was absolutely incredible. You know, getting Mekhi Becton in the draft, obviously. Getting Greg Van Roten, you know, Connor McGovern, George Fant, bringing back Alex Lewis. You know, he said to Sam Darnold's parents that I'm going to protect your quarterback. I'm going to protect him and do whatever I can to protect him. And that's what he pretty much did. We got a completely different offensive line this year. And we all know that the offensive line has been horrible since like Nick Mangold and Brick left and all these guys left. And now we can maybe see how Joe Douglas handles it. And he's an offensive lineman himself, so he kind of knows how to work with that. And maybe he's cooking up something for the Jets to keep Sam Darnold on the field rather than, you know, sitting at home.
Exactly. Going into free agency, I was so excited to see what Joe Douglas can do because this is our first Joe Douglas free agency. And he handled it like an absolute genius because he, like I said in the draft, he's planning ahead in the future. He wants to maintain financial flexibility for years to come, handing out 1-year deals so he has all the cap space in 2021 to work with because he understands that this Jets football team is not ready to win a Super Bowl in 2020. We're just not. It's not. Maybe we can slip in the wild card, but I'm not looking at this 2020 season as a season where it's a make or break year. And if we don't win, and make it to the playoffs and win the AFC East, then we're going to suck forever. I think that this is another prove-it year to see who we're going to keep for the long term. And then 2021, 2022 is when this Jets football team can really take it to the next step. So Joe Douglas's free agency this year, he wanted to bring back guys like Jordan Jenkins and Brian Poole, which I was really excited about. Cheap deals. I expected both of those players to hit the open market and get decent money from somewhere else. But no, they both stayed put on one-year cheap deals. The way he handled the offensive line was way better than I ever expected. If this was Mike Maccagnan would have paid $16 million a year for Jack Conklin, and that's it. And that would be our offensive line. Would have one player. But Joe Douglas spread out that money into multiple players, like you just named, Connor McGovern. We haven't had a quality center since Nick Mangold. We got a guy like Greg Van Roten, who's been on the Panthers. He's a veteran. He's a Long Island native, grew up a Jets fan. George Fant, he might have overpaid for, but it's not that much of an issue because there is an escape out of his contract after this year if he's not the answer. So I really like what he's doing with this offensive line. And going back into the draft, that Cameron Clark pick, I think he really wants to build this line his way. And I think we need to be patient with Joe Douglas. I know Jets fans get really upset when you hear someone says be patient because we've been patient forever. But you cannot build a winning culture and a winning organization in 2 years, especially with a new GM. Joe Douglas needs another offseason after this one to really take this team to the promised land. He can't fix this all in one offseason in the free agency and draft. I think if he masters next year's offseason in the free agency and he has another killer draft, then I think the Jets are going to be really competing in 2021. Another free agent guy that I really love, who's replacing Robbie Anderson, is Brashad Perriman. I looked at Brashad Perriman as a player that if the Jets don't re-sign Robbie, that's the guy they should sign immediately. And that's exactly what happened. The day the news broke that Robbie was going to Carolina, literally hours later, we signed Brashad
Douglas
Perriman.
was ready. Douglas was ready.
Douglas just knows. Like, it's weird. Me and Douglas are aligned. Like, I feel like he understands me. I could be Joe Douglas. Like, I'm not even kidding. But having a guy like Brashad Perriman, former first-round pick, he's a journeyman. I think he has a chance to really thrive in this offense with Denzel Mims. And don't forget, we got another player who was not in free agency, but after the season, we signed Josh Doxson. He was a free agent, and he's another former first-round pick from the Washington Redskins who battled injuries. I think he's going to, not do crazy good. I think he's going to be a very depth player and provide depth at that most. But another two wide receivers that I want to go back to the draft. I know we're all over the place, but the two undrafted free agents, Lawrence Cager and George Campbell, I think those two players have a shot to make the team, honestly.
Yeah. I think they can get the job over Doxson. I like Lawrence a lot. And, back to Brashad Perriman, last year, he's been dealing with injuries his entire pretty much career, but he had a good end of the stretch, like last couple of weeks. He had like a couple 100-yard games, I think, and a couple touchdowns. And, he's a gamble, but, it's going to be interesting to see how he pairs up. Hopefully he can stay healthy. I think he was with Sam Darnold in Florida. He brought a lot of guys like Crowder and all these guys. And so that's a good thing to see. Even during a pandemic, the offense is trying to learn each other. Sam Darnold has a lot of new people to work with this year. So I think even Lawrence was there. So like you see how they value these undrafted rookies. The Jets found Robbie Anderson as an undrafted rookie. Maybe we find something special in Lawrence, right? So Lawrence, even after the draft, when the draft ended on day 3, I was like, the Jets have been all over Lawrence. They had meetings with him. They talked to him, and as soon as when I saw he went undrafted, I knew the Jets would go after him. I was like, keep an eye on Lawrence Sager. He's the guy. He's the guy that can come in and be a flex option for the Jets, and make some plays for you. And that's what they just completely did. And now he's just got to impress him during training camp.
Yeah, and he already has a connection with Sam Darnold. They knew each other coming out of high school. They were both recruits. And the reason why he chose the Jets is because he's familiar with Hines Ward, Adam Gase. He understands the coaches a little more. So that's why he chose the Jets. So it's good to see somebody come to the Jets for Adam Gase. Another player that came to the Jets for Adam Gase, Frank Gore. Frank Gore was a late signing for the Jets. And he's going to be the Le'Veon's backup. And he's also going to develop a guy like LaMichael Pirine, who's another draft pick that we haven't even talked about, who I think has potential to really become a valuable asset in this offense, especially in his rookie season. He gets to learn behind Le'Veon Bell and Frank Gore. Those are two generational talents in their own ways.
Yep.
Frank Gore is at the end of his career. Le'Veon Bell he's past his prime, but he still has a lot of juice left in him. So I think those are two players that La'Mical Pirine can learn from. He went in the 4th round, and you never know. Alvin Kamara went in the 4th round. Philip Lindsay was undrafted. So you can find a diamond in the rough anywhere. And La'Mical Pirine's game kind of reminds me of Sean Green in a way. And what I love about La'Mical Pirine is he's good at everything that you want in a running back. He's not elite at any factor. Like, he's not crazy speed or crazy power. He's average at everything. He has speed, he has power, he has balance, he has vision. He catch the ball out of the backfield. That's what you want. So I feel like he's going to develop behind Le'Veon and Frank Gore, and I think he might be our answer at that running back position in the long term, whether it's running back 2 or 1. So that's really La'Mical Pirine. I love him. I just want to bring you guys my thoughts.
One more thing about Pirine. There's a video of actually him dragging Jamal Adams when he was in LSU.
Piggyback ride.
That was interesting. That'd be awesome to see. Like, what if they're in the same locker? If Jamal Adams stays and they're in the same locker room, imagine that conversation. Like, bro, I just carry the shit like out of you, man. Like, this is what I have in store for my language, but like that's just like, wow. Like, that's going back with that and seeing that like actually happen is just hilarious.
I know.
That just makes me laugh.
I made a highlight video for La'Mical Pirine while I was getting footage together. I noticed, I'm like, is that Jamal Adams he's carrying on his back? And I was like, wow, that is crazy.
Yeah,
so
he was just bodying him.
Going back to the free agency and Joe Douglas's offseason. So another position that was in big need that was revamped and we have a lot of depth at is cornerback. So we got Pierre Desir coming in, and I think Bless Austin is going to be our CB2, and we have Brian Poole returning, and then we got Bryce Hall in the draft, traded for Quincy Wilson and Nate Harrison. So we have a lot of guys on this roster, and I know that I didn't name everybody. So what are your thoughts on the quarterback position? Because if we don't have that bona fide number 1 corner, I think Pierre Desir will be that position, but we don't have that lockdown Darrelle Revis or Cromartie type guy. So how do you think this cornerback position will be in 2020?
It's going to be a completely open competition, maybe Bless cornerback 1. But I think all of them trust, him. And, Jets got rid of Tremaine Johnson. They finally got rid of Darrelle Revis. They got rid of those 2 guys that have been pretty awful for the Jets. And now the Jets got a lot of young guys on the team, and Pierre Desir is kind of he's an animal. I saw a video of him. I think it was AJ Green or I forgot which player. DeAndre Hopkins, of how he bodied him pretty much the entire game. So he could play. He's a dog. He's pretty much a dog, and he can play with the big guns. And it's gonna be an open competition. It's gonna be who wants it more. And I feel like, for Greg Williams, we saw it last year. Bless Austin made a mistake and he got benched. So like all these guys Greg Williams gonna keep them in check, and pretty much we're gonna have to see who wants it more. And if you mess up, you're going to get benched. You're going to get the next guy up. So everyone has a chance with Greg Williams, I feel like. And if you pretty much do well in training camp through preseason, through the season, you're going to get the starting job. And then, you're going to play more. Greg Williams is going to like you more. Greg Williams is a tough guy. He's a funny guy to work with, but
love Greg
on the field, he is loud. When I was at training camp, you heard him from across 3 fields. You could hear him across 3 fields. Like, that's how loud he is. And if you do something wrong, he's going to make you pay for it, and you're going to get benched. So, it's going to be interesting to see how the cornerback position shakes up.
Yeah, like going off of Greg Williams, I'll never forget Bless Austin's balling out. He comes in his first debut game. I forget who it was against, but, he was playing well for a couple of games. And then I forgot which game it was, but Bless Austin got beat. And he gave up a touchdown. Greg Williams pulls Bless Austin out of the game, sits out for the rest of the year. I was like, yo, Greg Williams, like, what's going on? Bless Austin is a rookie. Let's see him get some action, But that was just an example that Greg Williams isn't scared to be over his guys. Like, he's taking you out if you messed up. And it was a rookie learning experience for Bless Austin. So Greg Williams took this defense to another level with all these injuries. I mean, it's crazy how many injuries the Jets had last year and how good this defense was. I think a big reason why our defense was that good is our defensive line. I think that position is probably our best position at the defensive side of the football. And our run defense was the best part of our whole defense as well. I mean, we're like top 3 run defense. I think we have so much potential at that position, especially with guys like Quinn Williams. I think he's going to break out in year 2.
Yeah.
I see him working now. He's getting slim and he's getting bigger at the same time. Like he's like kind of like shedding off that baby fat and like growing into his body. And we know he's like a big baby, but just a big ass dude. Like he's huge. And I think he has potential to really wreak havoc and become like a dominant interior pass rush. And that's what this Jets football team needs. We lack an edge presence. We've had forever. I'm confident in Jordan Jenkins, but we don't have a guy on the other edge. So we need pressure up the middle. And I think Quinnen Williams will do that. And I know he had a disappointing rookie season, but I'm not worried about Quinnen.
No, I'm not worried about Quinnen either. You know, Greg Williams spoke really heavily about him this past week. And, you know, saying that, you know, Quinnen Williams could be the guy that steps up and he's going to have a big second year. And I feel like he will. I think he has a full talent. You know, he made plays here and there, but he was kind of moved around. You know, Jet fans are going to come at me for that because Leonard Williams did the same thing and didn't produce anything. But, you know, Quinnen Williams, I see a lot of potential in him. And I think he's been working his tail off this offseason, even with the pandemic going on. And I think he'll be a really good asset for the Jets defense.
Another player I want to quickly talk about that Joe Douglas got in the offseason is undrafted free agent Bryce Huff. And that's a guy who I expected to go late in the draft, and he went undrafted. He's an edge rusher for Memphis. And there's a lot of people raving about him who think he can come in, especially with a guy like Greg Williams coaching him. He can be our edge rusher on the opposite side of Jordan Jenkins. If Jabari from Florida doesn't work out, who knows? But that's a guy that I really am high on. And I think whenever I did mock drafts, I had him in the 5th or 6th round. So I was shocked he went undrafted. I'm happy that the Jets picked him up. So I'm really excited to see which players from this undrafted class on the Jets is going to work out, because that's my favorite thing about the draft, I think. Because I remember last year, Greg Dortch was an undrafted wide receiver. All Jets fans fell in love with him, including myself, and then we cut him. So I don't want to attach myself too much to these players because I know they're going to get cut and they're going to be gone. So, but yeah, that's just another player I want to quickly mention because Bryce Huff, I think, could be a potential answer at that edge rush position.
Look, what Douglas did this offseason is pretty much, you know, it's a lot of young guys coming in. So it's going to be open competition, and we don't know. A lot of people ask me, what's your record prediction for the season? What do you predict? Are they going to the playoffs? All this stuff. We don't know because half the team is questionable right now. Even Jamal Adams at safety is questionable now. So literally we have no idea what team is going to be out there week 1. So I'll let you know when that happens, who our week 1 roster is. Because right now there's so much competition. You don't know who's going to step up. And there's a lot of playmakers that are good, but we don't know if they're going to be good for the NFL yet. So it's all questionable positions right now, and skill positions. You know, pretty much our only thing is offensive line is even like questionable. So like again, like the run defense is probably our best suit right now, and our defense is always our number one. You know, who scores the most points for us, but you know, it's going to be interesting to see how the Jets go through. Hopefully we have a training camp and then we can see how these players are doing. But again, I can't do like the predictions again because we have no idea for half of the positions.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to really predict right now where this Jets football team is at. And another side of the football on the Jets who is really good besides defense is special teams. Brant Boyer is a special teams coordinator. He was one of the top special teams in the past 2 years is the Jets, and that's because of Brant Boyer. And I think Braxton Berrios is a solid punt returner. I think he can develop. I think Ashton Davis can become a nice punt returner, Vincent Smith. So I think special teams, not that important, but it's cool that the Jets are good at that. So I think it comes down to the offense. I think the defense is going to be there. I think the special team is going to be there. And the offense is the X factor of the season. And the X factor of the offense is the offensive line. As we know, it's been an abysmal couple years with this Jets offensive line ever since Mangold and Rubrick left. So Joe Douglas's first offseason with revamping the O-line, we have all new players. We might have every single player on the offensive line be new besides Alex Lewis. my projected starting five is Kai Becton on the left side, left tackle, left guard Alex Lewis, center Connor McGovern, right guard Greg Van Roten, and then right tackle George Fant. Those are four brand new players. And it kind of worries me that we're in a pandemic and it's all these virtual meetings because this offensive line needs to get chemistry and continuity, and that's how they will succeed. And hopefully they're in virtual meetings and somehow working out together. But having four guys on an offensive line that are brand new is not going to be an easy. Like, I don't expect this offensive line to be elite right away. I think it's a huge improvement from last year because that's how bad it was. But I don't think this offensive line is going to be that great. I think it's going to be average. Maybe I'm wrong. But another thing about this offensive line before I want to end this topic is the depth. We signed guys like Josh Andrews, who's going to provide depth. Brian Winters is still on the team. We have Chuma Doga still. We have the rookie Cameron Clark. So there's a lot of guys, a lot of bodies. Joe Douglas understands that there was a lot of injuries, so he's preparing for injuries.
Yeah, 100%. And again, like I said, we won't know how the team's going to look week one, right? So we'll know more about how the next 2 months and how everything pans out, even with the pandemic. Even if we're going to have a season, you know, things can change. So, yeah, I guess, again, Douglas did a great job. I feel like during the offseason. I do think this is his first big task to see if he can keep the best player pretty much on this team on contract and see if he wants to go. And if he wants to go, just let him go. And again, you know, for the first, you know, I don't know about this team, man, because we always get hyped about these picks. We always get hyped about the players that we bring in. True. And we just get let down, right? So this is what the Jets do, and this is what the Jets have been doing. So we're hoping for a change. I believe Joe Douglas can change this team and culture fully. And I haven't seen anything like this in a long time. The Jets doing about even in the draft, they brought leaders in the draft picks. Half of them were leaders on their team, you know, captains. You're like, you know, that's really good, especially, you know, that's what I kept tweeting. Jamal Adams leaves, we got 5 more new captains coming in. So, you know, we have the leadership in that locker room. It's just about changing it to winning. You know, you got to bring better players in, and, you know, Douglas taking it step by step. So, you know, we'll see how this pans out.
Exactly. So just to finish off this first episode of Loyal Media, let's just talk about our final thoughts of Joe Douglas and what we expect from him in the future. We went over 2020, but I want to go over what he's going to do in 2021 that I think is going to happen. So 2020, a solid first offseason from Joe Douglas. But when it comes to 2021, it's going to be very interesting. The Jets have a lot of cap space, and we have some quality draft picks as well. So I think Joe Douglas in the draft is going to be very similar. He's going to trade back a lot, acquire picks, and we might have a lot more picks to work with if we move Jamal Adams for draft capital. So I think Joe Douglas is really doing everything in his power to build this team the right way. And I think, like I said thousands of times in this podcast, 2021-2022 season is going to be the year the Jets take flight. I know we all are impatient. We want the Jets to be good this year. Trust me, I hope they're good this year, and I hope they're going to win the AFC East. But I'm just being realistic. Yeah. Looking at this team, I don't think that it's going to take that elite level. I think it's going to be way more improvements. This offense better look a lot better, I think. With guys like Denzel Mims coming in, Brashad Perriman. We have new playmakers, healthy Chris Herndon, new offensive line, rookie running back, Frank Gore, veteran. You know, there's a lot of new players on this team to get excited for. So I'm excited to see what this 2020 Jets football team looks like. But I'm still looking ahead. I'm still planning for my 2021 Super Bowl parade. No, I'm just kidding. But I really am excited to see what Joe Douglas is going to do. So to finish off this podcast, what are your thoughts of Joe Douglas in the future?
You said it perfectly, man. I mean, for Douglas is right now, you know, he's trying to build a team, and by paying on his first offseason, he's not going to pay these big time deals. You know, he's going to bring a team in, bring the guys that he wants to bring in, and bring a different type of culture to the Jets. And, you know, that takes time. That's why he's on I think a 6-year deal. That's what they signed him to, and to be a GM. And we're going to have to be patient. That's all we can do is hope for the best. I do not think we're going to have a good season this year. The only thing we can look at is to see some progress from Sam Darnold. have a full season of Sam Darnold, no injuries, no mono, no nothing like that. And, see Chris Herndon, see guys like Denzel Mims improve, see the offensive line improve. This is all that we can hope for. And if we get all those checked off, I think that, we did 2020 was pretty good for us.
Yeah.
And from next year, like you said, in 2021 is when we're going to have a lot of cap space, and that's when we can bring in big time players. And that's, I feel like, he did it with the Ravens. Look where the Ravens went. They skyrocketed, right? So hopefully he can do the same thing with the Jets, and fans can finally be so happy and like actually excited for their football team, because the off season for the Jets is always the best season, but
Oh yeah.
we want a regular season that's really good, right? So the last one was with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback. So it's going to be a process, but I do believe in Joe Douglas, and I feel like every podcast we're probably going to mention him and see how he handles the Jamal Adams situation. This offseason was perfect for him, so it's going to be exciting to see how Joe Douglas handles everything.
Yep, you said it perfectly. I'm so excited to see what Joe Douglas can do with his future, and I'm all in on Joe Douglas. So that does it for the first episode of Loyal Media. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys want to follow us at Loyal Media Sports Podcast on Instagram and at Loyal Media SP on Twitter. And then we all have our own personal Instagram and Twitter accounts. If you guys want to check that out, that'll be in the link down below in the description. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and stay tuned next week for a brand new episode of Loyal Media.
All right, guys. Again, we're going to be taking questions as well from fans, so look out for that. And we're going to have a lot of more polls of what we want us to do on the podcast. So we have a lot of exciting stuff to come, interviews with players, all this stuff. So stay tuned, and we're going to be here every week.
Yeah, stay tuned. Thanks for joining us. Have a good day, guys.